Hello and welcome to the Evercade Retreat. Gene Joke here with another review to add to my ranking every Evercade game list, and this time around it's the turn of Logjammers. I figured it'd be a good time to do this as I recently did Windjammers, and Windjammers Carnival and Friends cart hasn't long come out. Logjammers is essentially a riff on Windjammers. It's the same core gameplay, only it's based on lumberjacking and you're throwing axes and trying to get them past your opponent. Other than that, and the change in direction because you're playing vertically rather than horizontally, it is Windjammers, or rather it's Windjammers the Poundland edition, or the Dollar Store Windjammers, whatever you want to call it. So am I saying that it's a poor man's Windjammers? Well, maybe. Logjammers does differentiate itself a bit more. It has a sort of a horror vibe going on, with some horror based type characters and opponents to fight, an almost horror Halloween type soundtrack in places, and some hellish and horror themed backgrounds. There's also a few power-ups to play with, and the gameplay itself is a little bit more fast and frantic than Windjammers. Or is that more chaotic? Take a pick. Well, let's get some of the obvious bits out of the way first. Logjammers is an NES game developed in 2017 by Megacat Studios, so it's an aftermarket NES game, and Windjammers was Neo Geo hardware, although older, it was more advanced than the NES hardware, so naturally it's got quite a hefty visual downgrade compared to its inspiration, and the same with the music. So comparing the two isn't really fair. On its own merits, visually, Logjammers has some nice touches, doesn't look bad in places, but I do find a number of the backgrounds, well, there's a bit of a clash with the character sprites and they can be hard to make out, and things just aren't as clear as they could be. So it's well enough presented and not too bad looking. On the sound and music front, the sound effects are perfectly functional, a little bit bleepy, but again they suit the feel it has. The music, again, it suits the feel it's going for, but I can't say I'm a huge fan of a lot of the music, but it's done well enough. The gameplay, as I mentioned, it can be quite fast and frantic, more so than Windjammers, and it can get very chaotic. And to be perfectly honest, my first impression of this game was very negative, and that does seem to be quite a common criticism. In fact, I've seen a lot of negative comments about this game, and I do feel they're a little bit harsh, but I understand where they're coming from, because it doesn't give the best first impression. It takes a bit of effort to get into, and ultimately, although it has more power-ups and perhaps a bit more variety than Windjammers, it doesn't have the same complexity and fun of the gameplay, and I say that as someone who isn't a fan of Windjammers. The thing is, if, like me, your skill issue with Windjammers gets in the way of your enjoyment of it, perhaps you might find this a little bit more to your tastes. Maybe. And I did really have a think about whether I prefer this to Windjammers or not. And ultimately I had to decide no, although for a time I did have some more fun with this than I have had with Windjammers. I don't feel the urge to come back to it to try and improve gradually. So overall I don't think it's a bad attempt at trying to make a Windjammers-like game, and I'm glad they tried to do something a bit different with it, mix it up somewhat. And while it's not exactly my jam, pun intended, sorry, it's okay. To place it on my overall ranking list of every Evercade game ever, I would have to place it above Skate Cat, but below Area the Acrobat. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.